Stop the world. I want to get off. All right. First, I got to tell you a little history about this guy named Steve. Now, Steve in high school was the cool guy, and he started doing drugs. And then one day he did drugs, and him and a bunch of guys were in a car that was parked in the sun, and they passed out from the drugs. And I think the other two might have died, whatever, anyway, but Steve survived. Severely brain damaged, but he survived. And when he would walk, he had to walk sideways, and he would constantly lose his balance. And he was still a scumbag. He knew he screwed up, but he still retained that I know everything type attitude. And when he talked, he would stutter. He was just a mess. And he'd smoke one cigarette after another. He was sort of annoying, but you kind of laughed at it because he got himself into this really bad predicament. So I'm in the dairy, and when I went in there, the guy that owned it, he's listening to some old music, and I just kidded him. I said, "What are you doing? Reliving the past you never had?" And he starts laughing. He says, "Nah, some old guy came in here and gave me this music, and he put it in a cassette, and he was like listening to it." And I started telling him something. He goes, "You got some really good stories." And he blah 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 blah. I said, "Oh," I said, "Let me just stop you right there." So I start to tell him the story. I said, "You know that drug addict guy, Steve?" "Yeah, yeah." I said, "He was out in front of here, and he dropped his wallet in the burn barrel. And when he went to reach for it, he fell in the burn barrel. And then he couldn't get out. It fell over, and he's rolling around in the parking lot, screaming for you." And the guy starts laughing. I'm telling him the story. He goes, "That's really funny." I said, "Yeah, I know. You told me the story." And he looks at me and goes, "You're right, I did." I said, "You can do just what I can do." It's a funny story. Now, it's funnier if you know Steve, because he fell asleep in a car that was too hot, and he got brain damage. But he was still a prick. And his job was talking to other people, trying to get them not to do drugs. But if you knew him, he was the guy that went around and got everybody to do drugs. So when Bill tells me the story that he dropped his wallet or whatever in the burn barrel. Now, if you know what a burn barrel is, it may be a foot, 18 inches across. As an adult, if you go in there head first, you could get stuck in there. Now, I don't know if you know about a 5-gallon bucket. Sometimes they have a warning label. Little kids can fall into that bucket, and their arms get pinned on their sides, and they drown in the bucket of water. And this is what this guy did. He was actually it's a burn barrel, but it's actually a garbage barrel. He gets it to fall over. Now he's rolling around in the parking lot, and the garbage is all over him inside. And he's screaming for help, but nobody can hear him because he's inside a barrel. But when this guy Bill told me the story, it was hilarious. And what was funny, he's like, "You remembered I told you the story." I said, "That's the next step. You could tell a funny story. First, it's got to be a funny story. It's got to be relatable to a lot of people. You sort of have to tell it. You don't mention the person's names, but you can mention the person's names if you don't freaking care. And then the other thing is you have to have the memory to remember the story. And then you got to sort of remember who you told the story to, because there are people that have 10 great stories and they keep telling them over and over and over." And he starts laughing at that. I said, "Did you notice that, right?" "Oh," he says, "Oh." He goes, my father-in-law tells these same 10 stories, and he could tell it so well." I said, "The trouble comes when you try to tell new stories that happened in the past." I said, "That's when you're really good." And there are people that when they were telling me a story, I already heard it like 20 times. I knew the punchline. I knew it. But I told you, extemporaneous speaking. I think I said it right this time. I had to do that for Michael Prostock. I had him, I think, 4 years for English. And I didn't like him. He was the track coach. I didn't like him as a person. And I just didn't show it because I got him 2 years in a row. And I'm like, I might get him the next two. And someone says, "Yeah." He says, "You're not rated that good for English in your grades, so you're going to be in that class." And so anyway, I had him for 4 years. But he would call your name out. You'd go up to the podium. They had this movable podium. You'd stand there, and he'd go, "Goldfish." That's a goldfish. Start talking. I give you 1 minute to prepare. And he's looking at his. He's got a stopwatch because he's a freaking track coach. Okay, go. And then you have to talk about goldfish. Maybe a story about uh, the first time you saw something die. It was your goldfish. I could do a bunch of stories on goldfish. I'm not going to do it. But anyway, that's what I had to do. And I could do it. And then one time, he accused me of telling people that it was too technical. He picked a subject. And I started explaining it. And he gave me a good mark. But he said, you took it into a place where it was too technical. When you speak in front of a group, you try to keep it not condescending, but at a certain level where you're sure everybody in the group can follow you. And my mind races when I'm doing these videos. My mind races, and I tell you, sometimes I'm talking, and another thing pops into my head. If you ever watch RoboCop, no, the Terminator, one of the movies, they show you what he sees inside subjects. Inside they show you what his replies can be. That's how my brain works. As I'm telling you a story, I'm getting hit with other funny lines from other funny things that have happened. I remember most of my childhood, the names of the people. Mac was the name of the guy that used to wash the floor with me. Irish guy. It might have been McElhaney. It could have been, I don't know. But anyway, yeah, I couldn't think of that guy's name. What a nice guy from one of the past videos. Unbelievable. Well, anyway, I have a really good memory. It's starting to get messed up, and I had trouble with some of the words. Even my last name. I was saying my last name on one of the videos. I was butchering my last name. That's because here, my grandmother used to say Klein Bauer. Here it's Klein Bar. All right, and then the Amish, yeah, Klein. Klein is small, and Bauer is farmer, but the Amish say clean bar. It's not Klein, it's clean bar. Bar is farmer. So I've got so used to when I talk to the Amish and other Mennonites, I say clean bar. I don't say Kleinbauer because they just stare at me when I say Kleinbauer. When I see clean bar, they got an idea what I'm actually saying. But I noticed I butchered it. I'm like, oh, we're going that road. But I just want to tell you, yeah, this guy's like, how do you have so many stories? I said, well, first you have to have a really good memory. And he was a heavy drinker, so it's not going to happen. But you have to have a really good memory. You have to have a funny story. And you got to make sure you don't mention people's names in certain cases. And I do it to be funny. Like the one guy, he's 40. He's 40. You know, he took his father's Victrola, and I had keys to everybody's house. And you know what the parents would say? This is the keys to my house. Don't let my children in my house. Well, a lot of the kids, like 40, when he got the keys for his parents' house, he'd have a set made. And then one day his turntable was bad. He slithered into his parents' house, took his father's Victrola. The father comes after me. He just had an operation. I'm thinking he's toodles from the anesthesia. And he still let me take care of his house when he was down in Florida. But it really was a grudge. And every once in a while he'd bring up that frickin' Victrola. And then finally one day I'm there with him and I'm like, here comes the Victrola. He goes, no, Artie took it. Or Farty took it. And he finally told me, you know, his broke. Just go up to the father's house and take his. Yeah, that's why they told me, these are the keys to my house. I don't want my children in the house. That's what they actually said to me. And I had keys for almost every house in the neighborhood. And I won't go into all those stories. So I have thousands of stories. But I try to tell you the funny ones. You know, picture Steve in that burn barrel, you know, in his arms to his side, to his waist, rolling around in the parking lot. And there's garbage in the bottom of that. But he had no real balance from being in a parked car, and he had brain damage from it. It could have been from the drugs also. But this guy Bill tells me this story. It was hilarious because I knew Steve. I knew his attitude too. And then he tells me, well, you tell funny stories. I said, you do too. Yeah, I told him the story, and he's looking at me like, that sounds familiar. I said, you told me. Oh, yeah, that's right. It's your store. It happened right out there, and there's the barrel right out there. But somebody will tell you something really funny, and I remember it. And I remember who told me, where it happened, the people's names, but I couldn't think of Max. I was telling you about the church and all that with the science teacher. You know, two slicing machines. They had them both in the same outlet. Kept popping the breaker, and I said, just move one of them to a different outlet. You know, now the science teacher thinks another outlet is still wired to. Not necessarily. We know the outlet just cut out. Now, if this guy plugs the slicing machine in the other outlet and it works, that's a separate line. And this guy, oh, I'm the science teacher. I don't care what you are. You're stupid. You know, and then like I said, I put the fan up, doesn't wait. He has to jump on me because he was wrong once. Let's make yourself wrong a second time. You know, but people, they have this ego and this bravado. And you saw, I showed you what I look like. I walk along and I'm very friendly to people and I don't want to upset anybody, but I still manage to do that. Someone asks you for help and you show them how to do it. And then they're mad because you showed them up. Well, I used to spend my whole life, what is that? What's that? What's the thing that I just did the other day? Oh, I was telling you about the white lines over on Laura Oaks Drive. If you Google Laura Oaks Drive, East Lampeter, PA, you can drive on that street and see the two stupid freaking white lines. I asked the girl the other day. She was right in front of it. Oh, that's going to be speed bumps there. I'm like, yeah, those lines been there for 17 years. They're going to put speed bumps there. And I said, no. And I've been asking people, and when I tell them there was a police car involved, and then they make up something else about the police car. And see, around here, if they don't know something, they just make something up. And I tell these guys on construction, I go over there and they got this little, it's like I got to take a stupid John boat, a bobcat. This thing looks like a bobcat, and it has two like girders in front of it that go up and down, and they smash up footing or a swimming pool. I never saw one before. I'm talking to the guy, goes, oh yeah, it's a new piece of equipment, yeah, but it only can break certain thickness of cement. I went right over there. I saw that. I was like, I've seen this thing go up and down, two of them. I'm like, what the hell is that? I go over there, and I don't have a hard hat, but I stand back far enough till the guy stops moving it or running it, and I just go, just looking at that. I'd never seen one. He goes, oh, this is our new piece of equipment. And then he tells me it can only do certain thickness. I said, well, let me not stay too long, you know, because sometimes I stay with a construction guy and get him yelled at. I'm a long talker. You probably figured that out. But I walk around. If I see something I don't know what it is, I start asking questions. Like that one building on the corner of Hobson Road and South Oak by the state police barracks. There's a building out in the middle of it's a small field. And this guy, I met him again yesterday. He was mowing. And I was laughing. I said, yeah, a couple of neighbors told me it's a bomb shelter. And he's laughing. He goes, no, it was a transmitter. The transmitter in there for the state police. It's still there. And he goes, it's really in sad shape. I said, well, I'm happy. I know what it is now. And I said, yeah, I said, the neighbors, they make up stuff in their head. You know, it's sort of like religion. When you can't figure something out, you make something up. I think that's it. All right, that's it.